Our next question was sent to the CornyDriveThru at gmail.com. Name withheld. We're not going to use this person's name.
All right, it's going to be good now, folks.
It says in the subject line, don't say my email or name, so we will honor that. I'm a former Dory Funk student. I learned all the basics because he would ram them into us. While I was there, I thought, well, this is repetitive. Then I realized as I got out on my own that a lot of guys on the indies can't even take a proper bump on an arm drag, or hell, even do an arm drag or any of the basics. I learned from him that everything just falls in order in the ring once you learn the basics. I was wondering your thoughts on Dory as a trainer and a worker, but I was also wondering your thoughts on if his legacy gets weaker by the day by being with that witch Marty.
God damn it.
She weaseled a lot of money out of me and others while making that school hell for anyone wanting to join. She lies about how good talent are and just wants money. It's sad because Dory allows it, but I genuinely feel like Dory is a great man. I would advise people to go there if they could listen properly and have some kind of athletic background, but get in and get out within a 6 months to a year period. If you can't listen and need someone to show you constantly and you're uncoordinated, then go elsewhere. Love the show and love your opinions on the business.
Well, before Marty calls either one of us, first of all about Dory, as a worker, he and Jack Briscoe in the late 60s, early 70s were the gold standard. They were the state of the art of in-ring wrestling presented as competitive sport. The St. Petersburg match, what was that, 72, the Hour Broadway that's still out there, and with both of them and Eddie Graham making comments about it, they did a 1 hour Florida show on it. It's beautiful to watch these guys. Briscoe was an NCAA champion, and Dory was not a high-level, national-level amateur, but the old man trained him so hard and then drilled it into him and everything. Everything looked good. Everything looked solid and legitimate. Dory was not the personality, as a fireball personality, that Terry was. Terry was wilder. And a lot of people, after Dory had held the belt, then Terry came along, and a lot of people said Terry wasn't serious enough because he took the goofy bumps, and he was crazy convincingly. It wasn't like an act with him. But they were so different as brothers. But Dory, to today's audience, Dory Funk Jr. would be boring. His promos would be boring, and his matches would be boring. But in the context of the time, the reason why Dory was the epitome of an NWA champion is because the champion in those days, the traveling champion, that usually was a babyface in his home territory, like Dory was in Amarillo, would be the heel, if only a subtle heel, most everywhere else. The personality was the guy he was in the ring with. If he was in the ring with the local babyface, that babyface probably had more personality. was wilder, maybe had a fucking gimmick. Dory Funk Jr. was the champion that was legitimate, that you could believe in, that wasn't flamboyant, that wasn't a fake pro wrestler, that would come in and have a match that most of the times was different than the same match that the local challenger, the regional champion, whoever he was in the ring with, usually had, which is why some fans believed that, okay, well, the regular weekly matches, they're probably fixed, but the world title matches are real because you can tell they're really trying when he comes in, and there's no bullshit with that. So that's what the NWA wanted at the time. That's what sold tickets and drew money. The local challenger, the Southern Heavyweight Champion, the Georgia Champion, the Florida Champion, the North American Champion, whatever the territory's title, was not only the baby face for the most part against the world champion coming in, but he was the more flamboyant. And when Dory defended against heels, the heels definitely were more personable and flamboyant and more outrageous, had bigger gimmicks. Dory's job was to be real. Jack Briscoe's job was to be real, which was even easier for him because he was a real NCAA champion. Jack Briscoe's promos would be boring to today's audience because the world champion didn't talk anybody into the building. The challenger talked him into the building. When Jack Briscoe came to Memphis, Lawler talked him into the building on the theory that the people were going to see their hometown guy win the world title. Same thing with the top guy in Florida, the top guy in Texas, top guy in wherever. The world champion was supposed to be legitimate. Harley Race, same thing. So to Dory, his work was incredible, but it wasn't flashy and it wasn't, crazy like Terry's. It was completely legitimate and ground, and he would obviously take the bumps for the big comebacks and etc. But it was a different style. That's why Dory is an excellent trainer at especially the basics and especially the in-ring portion of the business. You wouldn't want Dory Funk Jr. doing your promo class. And that's no knock to Dory Funk Jr. He was the original trainer in the developmental program when they were still doing it up in Stamford in the warehouse at Titan Studio over on Hamilton Avenue. And the thought when I established the relationship with OVW was that Dory could be flown up from Florida to Louisville cheaper than he could from Florida to New York. He'd like staying here better because they hated fucking going to Connecticut and that goddamn in and out of the airport and all that chaos. So it'd be easier and cheaper, and he could still come up and be a guest coach. But for various reasons involving Marty, that didn't continue. They just didn't renew that. But no, Dory's a great trainer. Who else do you know? He's 79 this year. He still wrestles on his shows because he's still in shape too, and he can still handle people and move them around. So that's amazing on its own. And he was a state-of-the-art worker for his time. He just wasn't flashy, and he wasn't a great promo. And the reason why a lot of his legacy is being forgotten is not necessarily because of Marty. It's because so much of his career and really all of the meaningful part of it was before the video era. So you're not just buying videotapes of Dory Funk Jr. on a regular basis. But I mean, but his reputation was such. When I told the Armstrongs, Scott and Steve Armstrong, that they were going to get to work with Dory and Terry Funk, they felt like paying me. They both got hard-ons because there was a pleasure. It was an honor. And, two contemporaries of their dads, he'd wrestled both of them for the NWA world title, but just at that time, the respect that the Funks had for what they had done, what they'd accomplished, the workers they were, their whole family, their father, etc. I'm sure it wouldn't mean anything to these jackoffs today, but guys at that period of time in the 90s, when they got the chance to get in the ring with the Funk brothers still, it was like, my God, we should pay you to get this opportunity.
What do you think about one of the points in the email, the idea of repetition in training school, that even while you're there, you may think, well, this is boring. We're doing the same thing over and over again. It's those basics that help you as you actually get your career going.
Well, I think of a quote from the immortal Gary Hart when I was trying to deal with Silo Sam, Little John Harris in World Class. He said, repetition is the key when dealing with goofs. But repetition is also the key. When you play football, I've never played on a school football team, but I assume they have you pass and punt and kick a lot, don't they? Or when you go to you're going to be coached to play basketball on a basketball team, don't they have you dribble a lot and shoot a lot of free throws?
Yes, they do.
Well, then what the fuck? Okay, I can take one body slam, so now I've learned forever. No, I'm not in favor of just taking endless, repetitive bumps, especially out of control bumps or dangerous bumps or stuff like that. But yes, take arm drags over and over, do hip tosses over and over. It ain't ballet. If you can't toughen up on shit like that, then you need to find a new line of work, because that's the way that you learn muscle memory and how to do it at second nature. And then also, the more you take hip tosses and the more you take arm drags, the more you take whatever, even if somebody is trained by the same person and does it the same way, there's individual movements. Watch every great wrestler. You know who the ones that really stand out were? The ones that did shit a little bit differently because their bodies moved a little bit differently naturally. And that's what stood out. So guys do the same things differently because everybody moves differently. So you learn how to take these things from different people because it's not all going to be exactly carbon copy the same. And you learn when sometimes how to give yourself shit. Somebody just tweeted an old Knoxville clip this morning of Dennis Condrey versus Terry Taylor from 1980. And Dennis Condrey at that point was one of the smoothest workers in the business. Terry Taylor had been working for a year and was greener than a pepper tree. And the fucking finish was supposed to be one of those deals where the babyface goes to fucking slam the heel, but the heel drops behind, but the babyface spins around and pushes him in for a fucking roll up, and he fucking hits the guy on the outside, which in this case was Dutch Mantell, and the heels collide, and the babyface fucking rolls him up 1, 2, 3. Well, Dennis went to go into this, and some way or another, Terry zigged when he should have zagged and did something else. So Dennis actually put himself behind and then did a spin around Terry in mid-motion where it looked like Terry had done something, but he really didn't. And Dennis still ran into fucking Dutch and fell back over Terry Taylor, who pinned him. Because Dennis and his body language made it look like the most exciting thing in the world. All these things are when repetition also helps you when something fucks up. You have done this so many times, you just figure out a different way to get to the same place. And every rookie wrestler will tell you a story about being in the ring with guys who were doing things to themselves that the rookie was just, he didn't know what he was doing, but he was putting holes on the guy. The guy was really putting holes on himself, or he was taking moves off the fucking guy. The veterans could do that and make even a fucking rookie look like he knew what he was doing, even when he didn't know specifically what the fuck he was doing. And I told that story here a couple weeks ago about Donnie Bass when he was one of the assassins, grabbing me and giving me a flip bump on the floor as he was selling the babyface, and just said, as he grabbed me, said, "Hold on." And then he did the rest. I don't know. He didn't hurt me, but I ended up ass over tea kettle over a chair and him and everything else. And somebody that got trained by Donnie wrote me and said he did the same spot with him in fucking Piggott, Arkansas in 1983 or something somewhere. That's what those guys would do. They'd use the available resources at ringside, and if the rookie didn't know what the fuck he's doing, he'd just say, "Hang on." And there you go.